Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Jaylani Hussein, Executive Director of CARE Minnesota. It's mid-afternoon now. We wanted to jump in and connect with all of you who are online right now to let you know today is election day in America. Today is a critical day, particularly for those who live in Minneapolis and St. Paul. There is a major election in Minneapolis, obviously, for the entire city council, the mayor, and three critical ballot questions. Also, in St. Paul, there's a mayor race, school board race. In Minneapolis, also, there's park board race. There's many races happening, not only Minneapolis and St. Paul, but also in other counties. So we put together a link to provide with you some more basic information so that if you wanted to just figure out where you need to go vote, many of you might be working and voting a little later. Some of you already voted. Congratulations for taking part in democracy. Democracy is a participatory democracy. You have to engage. You have to be out there and do what is necessary to be involved. So I want to connect with all of you. If you can, take the opportunity today to get out and vote. Hopefully I'll answer some of your questions. If you do, put them in the chat box. I'll be right back after another reminder today to vote. I want to also talk a little bit about ranked choice voting, which will be what's happening in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I'll talk a little bit, explain a little bit of that, because I think people forgot sometimes, especially since it's not a statewide election as we're usually used to being aware of. So with that said, I'll be right back after this short video. Majid is back now from he's here in the office right now, so he's been helping us with the texting and some of the other efforts that we've been doing to get the voters to be educated as much as possible. For those who are joining us, a short program this afternoon to let you know today is election day, critical races across the state of Minnesota, particularly the largest city of the state of Minneapolis. And obviously, I just put up a link. If you go to that link, you can get some basic about the election, and also just knowing where your polling stations are, and where you need to get to, local jobs, other things. So, the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is ranked choice voting. I mean, Minneapolis, this is like a job is very confusing for those who folks how it works and how it plays out. So I'll play a short video that explains a little bit of ranked choice voting, and we'll look at like that and kind of explain a little bit of that. Um, this is a video, this is a video of Minneapolis. It kind of explains the nature of ranked choice voting.
In most elections, you only vote for one candidate for each office. But in some elections, voters can rank 3 or more candidates for each office. It's called ranked choice voting.
So as you can kind of tell, I'll summarize a little bit of what that video is. Kind of went pretty fast. It's pretty much an effort to get to 50% or more for a candidate, and obviously Minneapolis and St. Paul is very likely that the first ballot will not result in a first uh, in getting somebody to win. So what will happen is as you vote down or as you vote different candidates into your three options, those candidates will get their second vote to move forward. So pretty much in the first round, the lowest candidate or the candidate who had the lowest number, uh, their voters who voted for them, their second choices move up. And then that's how it gradually keeps going until someone has 54% of those votes. And that's kind of how the election is decided with ranked choice. And that's what's been happening for a while now. Um, so I want to just encourage all of you today. I know these off elections, they're called, these non, presidential election or, Congress or, it kind of seems like people don't take them seriously. But if you're living in Minneapolis, St. Paul, if you live in a lot of the jurisdictions that have ballot questions, city council, school boards, municipality decisions, all of these decisions matter. And they will impact your local county, city, and government. So it's critical that you today quickly analyze what's going on. For some of us who maybe last minute figure things out, and just get out there and make sure that you're able to learn as much as possible and have that information to make a really informed decision be available. But the most important thing you can do today is just go vote. A lot of the times we may not be prepared, but at least we gotta go vote, and that's critical. So we put some information on our website, and I just put the link out there. Feel free to use some of that information to help you understand what's going on, particularly in the two big races in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And then we will, like I said, there is a lot of information out there for about the candidates, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the local reporting has done some fair job of at least getting some of the information about different candidates as well. So um, uh, I want to make sure that all of you get a chance uh, to get out and vote today. It's incredibly important that all of you to make that effort. Please remind your family and others. It's important. I also want to go over a little bit about. So we put information up about, particularly when it comes to one of the biggest reasons why people do not vote. They do not vote because they got jobs, right? Right. And so one thing you have to understand is by law, your employer has to allow you time to go and work, to vote. You have a right to go and vote. So I want to share some basic information about that. Um, so you get a chance to maybe read about it. It's at State of Secretary of State. This is all on our website when you get to that link that I shared. But you have the right to take time off without losing your pay or personal time. It's not vacation time, right? This is your right. Your employer must pay you for the time you need to go vote if it falls within your scheduled work time, right? So, and most of us, it can fall within your work time. So, and your employer cannot require you to use your personal leave or vacation time at all. So I think those are critical, important here. A lot of the times, folks who are working oftentimes will say, hey, I just can't get to the polling stations because I am working. And that is, something that sounds reasonable, logically sounds, but at the same time, it's something that I think it's critically important that you don't use that as an excuse. You don't use that as an excuse for you not to get out and vote. And that's critically what I'm trying to say here. So I'm going to bring on Majid. Majid has been helping us out. He's our new volunteers coordinator. I'm sorry, a Greater Minnesota coordinator. And he's been helping us getting folks organized. Majid, welcome, and just sharing with folks today pretty much the importance of getting out and voting. And such a simple thing, but it's easy, when there's a presidential election, all the campaign ads, everybody gets, but really, it's these off elections that also matter, specifically when, a lot of decisions are being made, and particularly Minneapolis and St. Paul. So what is your advice for last people, minute folks? As I share right now, some of the Secretary of State information about time off. You have the right to be able to take time off to go to work, to go and vote.
Salam Jabari. And welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. I think one of my biggest advices to anybody that's willing to wanting to know more about voting is to kind of pay attention to these local campaigns and local elections, because at the end of the day, I think, as you mentioned before, it is very easy to kind of get wrapped up in national elections for presidency and for those big, huge campaigns that kind of come once every 4 years. But the ones that really matter the most to everybody and regular folks is, our local elections, because those are the ones that kind of, are impending on us for our community, our school board, our mayors, our town folks and townships. And so in those elections, I think those are the most important ones that a lot of people kind of don't really know about and don't really hear about, because everybody just kind of hears about, hey, which one's going to be our next president, when in actual truth, our presidency isn't going to really affect your small town and your small election. The ones that are really going to affect that is the local campaigns and the ones that we have here. And with care, especially these past month, is what we've been trying to do, and reaching out to everyone and letting them know, hey, elections are coming up, and to go out and vote today, especially to a lot of people in the community that don't have this prior knowledge of knowing that these elections are the ones that really matter to us, and the ones that are focused in change. And that's all we've been trying to do these last weeks. I mean, as you can tell, Jaylani, we're at the last stretch right now, and we're just trying to finish off and trying to hopefully get everyone to go out and vote and really kind of have a say in their regular everyday lives.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think it's very clear. I think every election matters. The tension for people to think that certain elections matter more than others. It's not true. That every election matters, and it's these off-year elections when there isn't a major position that's being made, as you mentioned, like a president or others. It's important because even these elections, the number of people that make the determination is much less. So in a city race, in a city council race, school board race, park board race, these races are even more critical because every vote is uniquely much more impactful. And so we saw in the Brooklyn park race, I believe 3 votes, or less than a handful of votes, decided that special election in Brooklyn Park in Minnesota this past year. And so, these elections are critical. And, I really want to make sure, as I emphasized that earlier point, that it's critical, and even more critical now, that those folks, particularly who are working today, realize that it is election day and you can take time off, and it will be paid by your employer to be able to go and vote, as long as it falls within that time. And most people, if you're working most of the time, as long as you're not working overnight when the pollings are closed, technically it falls within your work schedule. So you can take time off to do that. And I want to make sure, especially our immigrant folks, understand that. In Minneapolis, I think we're 10% of the folks who can vote have already done early voting. So 90% of voters, eligible voters in the city of Minneapolis, are going to cast their ballots today in all of those precincts. So with COVID and the challenges we've saw in 2020, we know it's not easy voting in person, but we also understand how critical is important. So I think making sure you wear your gloves and not just gloves, but your face mask, and you're continuing to observe some of the COVID protocols, even if you're vaccinated or not, is critical today. But it's an important day. It's an important day for you to get out and vote. It's an important day to show that your voice matters. As I started off this telecast today, every vote matters. Every vote matters, and every election matters. And don't belittle elections. And so I appreciate the work Majid and the rest of the volunteers and the folks that have been contacting. Um, so someone just asked, we can hear you in Denmark. Yeah, so in Minneapolis, I think the city council, the entire city council is being, will be voted on. And then in St. Paul, there will be, there will be uh, I think the mayor's race, particularly the school board as well, and also the park boards are up. And then there are tax easement, so the sometimes when we look it down, we're like realizing, oh, we heard the mayor and city council, but what about these other positions? Yes, there are a lot of positions sometimes that get caught up in local government, so there are a lot of decisions to be made, and you don't want to be uh, missing out. And so I have this flyer from 2020 I wanted to share with folks. It's a very basic flyer, and it says, vote for democracy or don't care, not sure, kind of busy. And this is usually what people do, right? They voting is literally being part of the participatory election. You have to get out and vote. You have to get out and vote. Magic, from just your experience in talking to folks and the mobilization with the calls and texts that you've been leading, anything that stands out? I mean, are people, a little bit dumbfounded that it's an election year, or is it just people are responsive? I mean,
Um,
what's your
you know,
sense?
yeah, I think most of the responses have always been like, what are you talking about? I mean, they always say, hey, what president, or I didn't know it already came up this time. And a lot of it is just people not knowing, not having the right information about, the elections that are always coming up, because a lot
Mhm.
of local elections aren't as long as presidential elections where they take 4 years. A lot of them are 2 years. Sometimes they kind of switch up. And so when, we've been reaching out to people, a lot of people are like, what do you guys want from me? You know what I mean? Like, it's not time yet. Leave me alone, things like that. And it's like, no, it is, because, we have this city council election coming up. We have this election coming up. And a lot of times, I think people just don't hear the big propaganda behind, local elections compared to national elections. And I think that's why they don't really, get the right information about it and don't really have the ideas from it. And that's what we've been trying to combat. A lot of the communication we've been trying to do is not necessarily, the same way campaign communication works, but just in a way to where we inform everybody of what is going on. No matter who you're going to vote for, that's not really our say. Our say is just, hey, do you have the right information to know that an election is coming up? Did you know? And if you didn't, well, here's the information. It's happening November 2nd. If you live in this district, here are the voting polls. Here, is where you could get more information. And that's all we've been trying to do. Whether the feedback has been negative or positive, all we're here to do is just kind of give everybody the right information and make sure there isn't any voter happening, or a lot of people, because a lot of areas they don't get as much information as they should, or compared to other neighborhoods, things like that. And that's what we've been really trying to combat and give
Well,
everyone.
I think also, to your point, I think people have just been busy with COVID and just figuring things out and coming out of COVID. And I think we've just had a summer and now getting back into fall. So I think people just kind of waking back up, and I think with the pandemic and everything that's been happening, the death of George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd by the Minneapolis police, the ensued uprising all over the world for justice around George Floyd. Our city has dealt with a great deal of cities here in the Twin Cities and state have dealt with a great, uh, an incredible task um, to really think about policing in America and policing the world much differently. So we're having very hard conversations right now across the state and in Minneapolis and St. Paul today. There will be decisions made on question two. There'll be decisions made on what's been happening here in Minneapolis, but also across the state. And all of these decisions mean that people have to participate in democracy. Democracy is a participatory sport, regardless of where you lie on all of these decisions that are being made today. These are critical moments for people to vote on. In Minneapolis and St. Paul, there are rent stabilization is on the ballot, rent control, and it's an opportunity for folks who rent. There's a lot of people who rent who are not aware of the fact that they now have an opportunity to gradually reduce this, corporate greed climb that risks renters, continue to increase renters' um, challenges. And so there's a lot that has to be made, and it's folks that have been, it's interesting, particularly in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Everybody's been receiving mailers, daily almost from candidates on issues and other things. And this is the time to vote. You can't complain. You can't say I don't care. You can't say it doesn't matter. It does matter. So I think it's extremely important. We'll be right back. I'm going to show this quick video. I just want people to know that today we tell people to get out and vote, but today you have to choose to be a voter. That's really the message. We want people to be a voter today. That's literally what it is. And so take the moment opportunity. You cannot use employment and employ working at a facility or whatever. You can't use those as an excuse because the law is on your side. It gives you the opportunity to go out and vote. So make sure you get out and vote today. We'll be right back after this short video. I'm back now. I want to again thank all of you for who joined us. I see in the chat we did get some folks who are just sharing that paying attention to what's going on right now. Thank you for all of you who joined us so far. We'll jump back up in a little bit later to provide some more updates about where we're at, and particularly if you have concerns. I mentioned a little bit about knowing your rights. You have to know your right as a voter. There's a civil rights organization. We really talk about that a lot, and so I want to make sure you know your rights as a voter. It's a critical step, particularly about the election. I know with the COVID pandemic, the elections could take a little bit time. If you're in line, remember you can stay in line even after the polling close. You have to be in line before the polling close. So just be mindful about that, and we have all of that information on our link that I just shared with you. Um, and most of it goes back to our Secretary of State website, which has a pretty extensive information about the election, know your rights. And so it's critical that we do that. We also want to make sure you report to any type of harassment at polling stations, any type of somebody trying to do anything that would, in any way would harass or create some confusion. We know voter intimidation and efforts do exist, and it can happen at any time. So we want you to make sure you know your rights, and you can able to exercise them, particularly that. And judges on the poll judges and folks who are working there are very helpful. So you can ask them, but sometimes maybe they have other, if you feel that you have not been helped, please contact us and we will look into the issue. We have our legal team that will be able to support any questions that you may have that may arise. And we're also happy to connect with the Secretary of State office in case there are other issues that come up around voting. Imagine any last point before we close it?
I would like to just say, as Jay Lenny mentioned, it is your right to vote, and at the end of the day, you have the right to leave work and go vote. I mean, it is your right, and I think for the most part, it's just kind of going out there and really realizing how much of how much power you have and how much you could really change the narrative of a lot of these conversations and a lot of these campaigns. It's just by going out and voting and letting people know what you really think. Just because as he mentioned earlier, the picture of it says kind of voting for democracy or just don't know, don't care. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of elections and a lot of things don't go your ways because you don't go out and vote. And so at the end of the day, I would say just kind of make sure to be out there and make sure to go and give your vote and know that no one really could stop you from doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We will be back a little bit later to go over with you a bit more about the election and provide some more updates for you. Please share the video with others, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you. Also, if you share your image of you voted today or anything that would help encourage others and remind family and friends that they should. Many of you might be having WhatsApp groups, and this is the moment to be text blasting about elections. So, and please let us know that how we can help. And I put the link out there earlier. You can go and we have every basic information that will help you with this election today. Thanks, Majid, for joining me, and for the rest of you. Thank you so much, and we will be back in a few.